what it's called, the Kolar. The Kings and Queens of Corbet's Kolar. Anyway, you got to check that out. It's just crazy. And move ahead and give you a kind of a quick update on what might be coming up for you here. But besides the beginner podcast and how to get rentals and that scenario all put together, because nowadays you can rent jackets and ski pants and gloves and helmets and goggles, the whole thing. So if you're coming up to the mountain and all you have on is your leisure suit or whatever, jogging suit, something, you can just step out of your jogging suit and into a snowboarder outfit or a skier's outfit in no time at all. But anyway, right now I have the radar up and it looks like Arizona's getting dumped on hard. This is the 24th of January, 2021. Colorado's getting a nice little dump. Utah's getting a nice little dump. And the Seattle, Oregon area up near Salem, terrible dump up there, getting all kinds of snow. Eureka, California, heading into the Lake Tahoe area is nice little dumps coming. Anyway, I wanted to look at some of the ski cams that were around. The first one I was going to look at is Purgatory, Durango, Colorado. The ski resort's called Purgatory. And Purgatory, oh man, it's snowy, it's cloudy. It's a good little crowd, not too bad. Arizona Snowbowl. At the Arizona Snowbowl, looking good. Million people here in line ready to get on that new Arizona gondola lift. They said they were sold out on their tweets this morning, as well as COVID to capacity, whatever COVID capacity is. Check out Mammoth. Looks like it's sunny. That's Southern California, just north of Route 66 on the 395 is Mammoth. We might have to check that out this season. I had a friend of mine from New Mexico said, hey, how come you haven't been talking about New Mexico? So I have Sipapu in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, right just north of Santa Fe. There's ski fence Santa Fe, and on the other side of those hills is Sipapu. And Sipapu is a really cool, really inexpensive mountain with some great snow. Great skiing. Is probably one of the best kept secrets in all of New Mexico. And it's right at the southern tip of the Rockies. Got to check that out. Ski Santa Fe's cams looking good. The trees are all white and dusted because it's cold. That's what keeps that powder so powdery up there and so flaky and nice and fun to ski in is that it gets cold in Santa Fe's mountains. And the base cam, wow, looking good. Looks like a few people out and about in Santa Fe, but not very many. But here's why I'm telling you about New Mexico is how cool it is if you're from there. If you're not, they have you on like penitentiary lockdown. Got to have 14-day quarantine. Anyway, they still have like this primal thinking in regards to the COVID and the way that they handle people from outside of New Mexico. So if you're from outside of New Mexico and you want to ski in New Mexico, I don't recommend it. I would just stay away from it. So anyway, there's the ski cams. Going back over it, it looks like Mammoth right now is the one with the good weather and the good snow. Everywhere else, it looks like it's snowing, but the trees are just beautiful. They're all caked with white. It's just, I love that. I love that. Moving along, I wanted to talk about skiing, how to begin, where to come from, this kind of thing. but I wanted to just give you the real skinny on this because I think it's important that you have a little bit of history. Because I can imagine just through some deductive thinking, you could say, well, I bet the Eskimos did, I bet the Norwegians did, the Scandinavians did, the Vikings, probably Native American Indians, and all those answers are right. It just at some point, imagine that the Chinese were also involved, the Mongolians in some fashion, some form. You never know. I haven't done that kind of research, but what I did do is I looked at modern skiing. And if you look at the modern skiing, there was a guy named Mathias Zdarsky. Let me see his name. Mathias Zdarsky. And what he did is he imported skiing to America when he came. And this kind of rudimentary skiing that they had in Norway, he brought that down, their concept. So we had this kind of innovator guy, and he's also known as the father of ski instruction. He was an instructor in Austria, but over time he wasn't looked at like the godfather of skiing, which he should have been pimping around Austria with a crew talking about how he invented the sport and he's made it what it was today and all that kind of thing, But he didn't do that. He was looked at as kind of a kooky guy, a kook. So anyway, kooky Zdarsky. I mean, homie was just doomed with that last name too. He came over here to America and he was like thinking that Czech name was going to carry him miles. And unfortunately, there wasn't much wind in the sails for that Zdarsky name. But nobody named Zdarsky should feel bad about being called that if that's your last name. But I wouldn't start a ski line with those skis. So just saying, start out with something else. Well, speaking of that, moving forward to the 1950s, we have a guy come around, Howard Head. Now, that's a little step up from Zdarsky's, Mathias Zdarsky, but Howard Head invented the aluminum ski. And that really started making things happen. And skiing was on the rise. Yeah, it started taking off. People were starting to get interested in it. And you have to understand that like the first ski lift, and there was a ski lift, but like the first beginnings of that kind of thing started happening after the 1920s. So you had these innovations coming around that started getting people involved. And so now you have lifts coming, you have aluminum skis that are happening. Then in the 60s, Bob Lange invents the plastic boot. Pow! That had to be the coolest thing because boots were these ugly leather things and there wasn't any kind of statements. There was no fashion sense. There was just nothing. And that's the cool thing about skiing. I don't know. A lot of people just dig it because it's a fun sport. And I think that's cool too. But listen, I love to dress up in the winter, and maybe it's because I live in the desert and we don't get a chance to flex our fashion muscles much. But when you can ski, like nowadays, you can dress up in all kinds of crazy colors. Your goggles can be crazy colors. Your helmet can be crazy colors. Like you have the ability to make your ski statement so unique or real unique in a way that you just go with one color, whatever that is, Like I've seen some chicks that all they do is wear red and white. Or I'll see some guys that have these painted, they look spray painted almost, outfits on. They're just crazy. And then you'll see some dude in the American flag floating around. But back into skiing. So Bob Lange invented these plastic ski boots, man. And that started just rocking the sport. So you had these aluminum skis, you had these plastic ski boots. And now I'm a kid in the 60s watching all of this come to fruition. And it was the coolest thing, because then you had people coming out with these really wicked colors. Like all of a sudden there was red ski boots and there was blue ski boots. And that was the thing Lange, I think, was famous for, was like these really cool blue ski boots. But there was all kinds of ski boots. Scott had these really nice ones, and Lange had these cool ones, and Head had cool ski boots, and Rosignol was another one that came out with some cool stuff. But then the sport took a turn that nobody saw coming, and it was gradual, but when it popped, it was about 1993 or so, and the shape ski showed up on the scene. Shapow! Yeah, the shape ski. If you've never skied, it means nothing to you. It's like Leonardo da Vinci was just some guy you heard of in history. But if you know the world of art, and if you know skiing, and you put those two and correlate them, you know what shape skis are. Your balance is better on them, your turns are better on them. If you're heavier, they're easier to stand up on. You don't see people falling over on them as often, so carrying them isn't such a big deal. And now boots are lighter. Sport has just completely changed into this really cool sport. And like, I remember hearing like Billy the Kid when I was growing up. He was a medalist in the 60s, and then there was this other cat that used to have a mohawk that used to ski, and I don't know if it was the same Billy the Kid that was in the Olympics or not, but I think this was a younger version of Billy the Kid. And this is the ski sport that I was learning. And anyway, this other Billy the Kid too used to have a mohawk, and he'd do flips and crazy shit on skis, and it became an acrobatic sport in some ways. And it was high speed too, because you start watching the downhill and then the giant slalom, and then you'd see men and women both in it, and they both accelerated and both excelled. But the question I get is so what's up with skiing? So I just talked about shape skis and what that means to the sport. And then there's a new thing called twin tips. What is this? And you're like, okay, twin tips are the best. I mean, I don't even have a pair, and I can't wait till I get a pair and start rocking them. In fact, I'm going to probably demo a couple. I'll get out and try some. I mean, I've seen some K2s. I've seen some Line. I've seen some Head. Oh, well, I was looking at some of the girls' skis too, these Roxys. I saw some twin tip Roxys that were just cool, some Lange. They were just neat. Anyway, and in the background over here, you can see I've got some twin tips. Can't tell, but they're twin tips. Olivia, my daughter, just bought these because she wanted to go into the park more often and shred. Like, she's got friends that all snowboard, and she skis, and so it's all she's wanted to do. She snowboarded a couple times, and she's like, yeah, I'll do it if I have to, but like, I'd just like to get on skis and just go for broke. The K2 misconducts. The K2 misconducts. She got 149, and the 149s, they got these killer Tyrolia bindings on them, and she's away at school right now, but when she gets back over spring break, I hope she'll be back over spring break. You know, I'm just a lonely father that misses his daughter. But anyway, I hope she comes out and she rocks these boards. I can't say that I'll wait for her, because I've got a couple ski trips planned to run up and do some filming and do a couple of podcasts from some different resorts. We were going to maybe do Ski Santa Fe or maybe head over to Taos or the other one. Let's see. I like to say its name right. I gotta read it. Sipapu ski resort in New Mexico, but we're gonna wait until probably next season when they let everything clear up out there because of COVID and all that and their restrictions. And by the way, I don't think it's bad what they're doing with their restrictions. If that's what they want to do, I'm all for it, man. You know, you got to keep an eye on your people. And the only way you can do it is say, like, okay, here's our borders. This is what we're going to do inside of our borders. And, like, whatever you guys do is your thing. I totally respect that. So go New Mexico. And besides that, if you're living in New Mexico, I bet the skiing is just so good for you because you just don't have to share the mountain with everybody like you had to do in seasons before. But anyway, so that's the little brief history of skiing. The twin tips I could keep going on and on about. They're for the park, they're for the hill, they're kind of an all mountain ski, but I wouldn't recommend them for all mountain. I would just recommend them to go out and have fun and twirl around and hit some bumps and shit in them. Not moguls, I'm talking about the park, using them in the park and that kind of thing. I mean, they'll go over other places in the hill. Like, you got to get to the level where you're just learning how to ski first before you start worrying about twin tips or not. But I have a good friend of mine, his name's Eric Keating, and we've skied Santa Fe a few times together, and he's got two great kids, Niall and Lily, and those two, I've seen them grow up on skis, and they're awesome. Those guys, they still rock it on the hill. But their dad's the one that taught me not just how to ski, but how to ski fast. And he told me, don't even waste your time with anything except racing skis. He said, there's just one way to go, and that's straight down the hill. And so when you go skiing with Eric, that's all I can tell you is he's just too much. Love that guy. But anyway, I've skied with him at Sunrise, I've skied with him at Snowbowl, I've skied with him at New Mexico, and the guy just tears it up. And I've also seen him slow down for the people that we were skiing with in the beginning that needed a little assistance, and he had the patience of a saint. The guy was amazing. But as soon as we dropped off the intermediates and the beginners, he's like, okay, here's how the experts ski. And so he was like, boom. He used to be an independent photographer, so he'd sell his stuff to like sports magazines, Sports Illustrated, I think, things like that at the time. But he would do exotic sports like surfing and whatnot. So he's always interesting to talk to. He's interesting to bounce ideas off of and to definitely go skiing with. But anyway, okay, so why I was bringing him up is that he talked about maybe going to Mammoth, so we'll check that out. Another person I've skied with over the years that I'd like to mention is Carrie and Brian Peterson. When we were kids, we used to ski with those two guys. We took ski lessons from Mrs. Perko together, and boy, those two were just so much fun. And then we ended up growing up and being friends with each other, and I knew Carrie in high school, and then after that, of course, you know, you tend to lose touch of each other because of school and moving away and everything else that goes on. But I wanted to mention them and my boy Robert Davis, of course, because he was a guy that we used to go skiing in high school. He used to come up with another friend of ours named Ed Cunningham, and those guys would come up and go shredding. And this other cat named Keith Ogelslager, he had come up with them, and Billy Massadorf when I got my apartment, and they'd stay with me. But these guys were just the best. If you could do me a favor, if you could subscribe, ring the bell, like this video, put the thumbs up, share it with your friends, and maybe even leave me a comment below. I'd appreciate it. that's the beginning of skiing. That's kind of where skiing is. We're going to do a video, a podcast about now that you know about skiing and maybe you want to try it, now what? And when that happens, I'll let you know what's cooking. Thanks again.